Today, I'm going to make you look at Flora and Bloom from totally different perspectives. Hi, I'm Jeleme, and this is the third video from my Winx Club Redesign series. We've already talked about Aisha and Musa and why I consider them a real soulmate. We've also talked about Stella and Tekna, whose friendship is really underrated within the fandom. So now it's finally time to talk about two of the most requested characters, Bloom and Flora, and we will talk about why Bloom would be inevitably traumatized by her experience in Alfea and why I consider Flora to be the leader of Winx Club. But before we start, by our little habit, I will ask you to engage with this video and follow if you haven't joined our little community yet. When you follow during video, YouTube much eager promotes the video and you also will help me to reach more Winx Club fan. So subscribe, like this video and comment. Thank you so much and let's start. Flora is a genuinely kind character, but the thing is, people often mistake kindness for weakness, and in media, characters like her are usually written as naive and easily influenced, as if being the nice one is their own personality trait. Sadly, that's exactly what happened to Flora in the later season of Winx Club and the recent reboot. I swear, if they force her into a self-sacrificial plotline one more time, I'm gonna explode. In my rewrite, I didn't want to change who she is at her core. Instead, I wanted to dive deeper. I wanted to explore how her calm and gentle nature shapes her life, for better and for worse. So while some people see Flora as just a sweet and naive girl, they're mistaken, because she possesses remarkable emotional maturity and sees right through people. Her kindness is conscious choice. However, the same sensitivity makes her vulnerable. She misses home terribly and spends her evenings constantly writing letters to her family to stay connected to her world. Flora's biggest inner struggle is her inability to say no. She sincerely tries to learn how to set boundaries, but every time she needs to be firm or face a conflict, she gets lost. Flora is completely averse to conflict and would rather sacrifice her own comfort than cause anyone pain. It's precisely this trait of her that leads to an excessive level of responsibility being placed on her by those around her. Her excellent entrance exam scores and personal qualities were immediately noticed by her professors in Alfea, which led to her being elected as class representative on the student council. And it's not that she hates it, Flora genuinely loves helping others, but sometimes communicating with her classmates can be exhausting, and the workload from her professors is overwhelming. That's exactly why I think that it would be interesting idea if the Winx Club were built around Flora. She's not the type of person who can boss people around or give orders, but her caring nature is what can bring people together around her and help people with completely opposite personalities find common ground. Besides, let's be honest, Bloom, as a girl from Earth who found herself in completely unfamiliar circumstances, and whose life has been turned upside down, isn't the best candidate to bring six different personalities together. She needs a therapist, not even more responsibility. Flora quickly hit it off with Bloom acting as her so-called guide into the magic world, and surprisingly, her relationship with Musa also developed smoothly. This was despite the music fairy's explosive temperament. Also, Musa's tendency to skip classes often upsets Flora. As a class representative, first of all, she is held accountable for this because the faculty conceal. Her friendship with Aisha, on the other hand, will face some initial difficulties. In my opinion, Aisha might be a little overprotective of Musa, as she's her first real friend in a long time. That's why Aisha might feel a little jealous of Musa's friendship with Flora. But I think they quickly work through this misunderstanding and it will become the foundation for a strong friendship going forward. Flora prefers to keep it secret, but she is terrible with digital technology, which often becomes a source of joke from Tekna. But still, Tekna would never refuse to help Flora. And as for Stella, I think she's exactly the one Flora would have the hardest time building a relationship with. Stella is pretty straightforward and can be quite intense. And also, Stella knows how to test people's boundaries. And Flora has a hard time establishing those boundaries. That's why these two would need more time to build a relationship. Through her interaction with Flora, Stella will come to better understanding the consequences of her action and finally take responsibility for her behavior. Flora, in turn, will learn from Stella how to better assert her personal boundaries. Of course, it won't happen straight away, but over time, those two will end up becoming the absolute best friends. When it comes to Flora's design, I really wanted to highlight her gentle, dreamy nature. She wears loose-fitting dresses that lean heavily into the boho chic style, and of course, she only wears natural fabrics. In a way, my Flora is a bit of Rapunzel. If you look at her concept art, you can see just how insanely long her hair is. The lore behind this is that on her home planet of Linfia, her hair grew constantly, but the second she moved to magic, it completely stopped growing due to terrible environmental conditions. I mean, if you think our capitalism is destructive, just imagine capitalism in a world where literal magic exists. Honestly, magic gives her constant headache, and that's exactly the same reason she always wore high heels. She's trying to avoid as much direct contact with the city's asphalt as possible. In conclusion, while I absolutely appreciate the purely positive side of Laura's character, I really wanted to delve into the actual challenges that comes with it. It adds layers of depth and realism to her while setting up a beautiful trajectory for her personal growth. After all, we're talking about teenagers here, they all still figuring themselves out, developing and evolving. Even through Flora's kindness often becomes her biggest hurdle. People are naturally drawn to her, and this is precisely how the Winx Club takes shape in its earliest form, a group of teenagers thrown into a brand new school of magic gathering around a deeply responsible girl who, just like them, is simply looking for the support of her friends. Since we're diving so deep into the magical world of fairies today, I would like to take a quick second to invite you to another magical place, my Etsy shop. And I just did a massive shop update including brand new keychains, design inspired by our favorite fairies. There are also tons of new badge and stickers design that would be a perfect for you collection, including a stickers and Hatsune Miku and her Enchantix outfit, which I'm obsessed with. But my absolute favorites are the new metal cards, which I can officially make myself now. As a huge thank you to all of my YouTube family, I have a special promo code for you. If you use it at checkout, it will include an exclusive postcard featuring the exact illustration from this video. And yes, I personally signed it for you. I'm incredibly grateful for your support, whether you check it out in my shop, leaving a like, subscribe, or comment. It means a world to me, and thank you so much. And now, finally, we need to talk about Bloom. If you watch my review of the Wind Club reboot, you already know just how much their take on my favorite redhead completely annoyed me. Bloom is the kind of a character who gets a lot of hate simply because of her central role in the plot. And on the one hand, she's the main character and the backbone of the entire story, what were you expecting? But on the other hand, due to the pacing and limited runtime, her character development often gets the short end of the stick and can easily look like everything just was given to her by the plot line. But that's still not a reason to hate her. I officially forbid you from doing that. In my rewrite, I want Bloom's journey into the magical world to be a much greater challenge than it ever was in the original series, and especially in the reboot. It took her 4 minutes to end up in Alfea. Bloom is creative, dreamy girl who's been obsessed with fantasy stories since she was a kid, and honestly, I would even call her a geek. But because she grew up on Earth, all her knowledge of magic was shaped by things like books, movies, video games. She's literally every single one of us. So when Bloom actually lands in magics, I really want to capture that raw sense of bewilderment and confusion confusion because let's be real, human fantasy is nothing like what the magical world would actually look like. She's going to have to unlearn everything she thinks she knows about magic. Once she arrives in Magix, Bloom finds herself thrown into an environment that is entirely alien to her, and anyone who has ever moved to a different country, especially the one with completely different culture, will know this feeling. Now multiply this feeling by 100, and maybe we will get close to what Bloom is going through. It was supposed to be a fun magical adventure, immediately collides with the harsh realities of a daily life. We're talking about teenagers here, and Bloom is struggling to connect with anyone simply because she doesn't understand how this world works. To everyone else, her behavior just seems weird. On top of that, her Earth's origins raise a lot of eyebrows among the classmates, and suddenly Bloom is attracting a ton of unwanted attention for all of the wrong reason. Instead of being judged for her skills, personality, or achievements, people are judging her for things she has absolutely no control. Naturally, this takes a massive toll on her self-esteem, and things won't really start to change until the wings are formed. By the way, about Winx Club, just like the original series, I think it makes perfect sense for Stella to be the one who invites Bloom in Magix. So it's in her character to make impulsive decisions that seems incredibly cool in a moment, but have serious, messy consequences down to the road. But hey, Stella usually gets away with it. This kind of irresponsible behavior is exactly what leads to the very first conflict between Stella and Flora. Like, now, Flora has absolutely nothing against Bloom, but just imagine the situation. Stella brings a random girl from Earth straight to Alfea right in the middle of a school year. The problem is that beginning of our story, Flora just doesn't have the mental strength to stand up to Stella's stubbornness. So, by hook and by crook, Bloom ends up in Alfea anyway. Yeah, as you can see, in my version of Winx Club just didn't come together overnight, and let's be real, nothing is ever simple when it comes to teenage relationships. And after the Winx Club is officially formed, the following some constant nagging from Flora, Stella finally realized her responsibility for bringing Bloom to Magix in the first place, and she truly begins to help her out. However, our Fire Fairy is incredibly stubborn as well. She's absolutely refused to back down or be the burden, especially when it comes to financial matters. Because let's face it, Earth's money is basically monopoly money in the magical world, and this drives Bloom to take on part-time jobs alongside Smooza just to earn some cash. Bloom and Flora actually end up bonding through their shared sense of responsibility, even though Bloom initially avoids Flora for quite a while because of a quarrel they had at the very beginning of the story. I also feel like Bloom will build a solid connection with Aisha largely through Musa because Bloom isn't an introvert by nature, but the sudden massive change in her life definitely makes her act more reversed than usual, and since Aisha already had hard time forming bonds with new people, well, you get the picture. They naturally find common ground in their shared caution. And Tekna, for her part, is going to be absolutely fascinated by Bloom. As we already know from last video, Tekna has been incredibly curious since she was a kid. However, her curiosity doesn't always come across the right way, which can often lead to plenty of misunderstanding between them. And by the way, Bloom also has a huge crush on Icy. I won't go into lots of detail here, but let me know in the comment if you want to a separate video, for example, diving into that dynamic, and like I'll have to hear your thoughts. And yeah, as I already mentioned, Bloom's journey into magics is going to be a brutal test for the Fire Fairy in every single way, from just surviving the daily routine of the magical world to discovering her powers and searching for the birth parent. And all of these challenges are going to take a massive toll on her, and honestly, she wouldn't be able to get through it without her stubborn nature and friends standing by her side. I still firmly believe that Stella is Bloom's closest friend. However, we all know that Stella isn't exactly the type of character who knows how to successfully support someone going through rough emotional time, unlike Flora. Bloom and Flora are deeply united by the heavy burden of responsibility they both taken on, since they are both incredibly devoted and sincere. And even though Flora initially not offend the idea of Bloom coming to Alfea, it came from a place of pure genuine concern, because Flora understood perfectly well how difficult it would be for a girl from Earth to adjust to a world she knew absolutely nothing about, and just how dangerous it could be for her. But once Bloom joined Alfea after they discovered her magical abilities, Flora essentially took her under her wing. And in return, Bloom often helps Flora with her duties as class representative and always wanting to repay her for her kindness and support. As soon as Bloom settles into school and her life becomes a bit more predictable, she will naturally step into leadership responsibilities within the club. This transition happened completely smoothly without disturbing the group dynamic at all. After all, Bloom genuinely possesses those natural leadership qualities, and she is never afraid to show them when things get tough. That would be such a great climax for Bloom's personal growth. Plus, it would be finally take at least one massive responsibility off Flora's shoulders. Given this increasing dynamic between them, I think Flora and Bloom could often be found volunteering together at a school greenhouse. As I've mentioned before, Flora deeply dissatisfied with the environmental quality in magics, so caring for these plants is a deeply personal mission for her, and Bloom, who grew up helping her mom tend to the flowers in her shop back on Earth, is more than happy to help out. It became their quiet sanctuary away from all that magic school chaos. Generally speaking, I actually see Bloom's and Flora's relationship more as a sisterly one. Bloom reminds Flora of her younger sister whom she misses terribly, and that was one of the reasons why Flora grew so close to her. And now let's sum it all up. We finally met all the Winx Club members! Really wanted to portray their relationship in a way that where every single girl has close, unique ties with the others, making it feel like a genuine organic friendship. It's definitely not perfect. Sometimes they have a hard time seeing eye to eye, and they might even argue, and honestly, knowing Muse's personality, she might even start a fight, though let's hope it doesn't come to that. But we shouldn't forget that we're talking about teenagers here. They're impulsive. They are always not always rational, and on top of that, they all been through completely out of their comfort zone at a magic school on the other side of the dimension. This video series about Winx Club Rewrite is far from over actually. Moving forward, I would like to share my headcanons about Trix and the witches in general, as well as fairies transformation and how magic actually works in my universe, and of course we probably have to speak about specialists too, yeah. Let me know in the comment what you would like to see next. Overall, please share your thoughts on my takes of this character, and I absolutely love reading your feedback and ideas. Also, just a gentle reminder to check out that promo code for my Etsy shop if you want to grab some of my new goodies and get your signed postcard. Thank you for watching and see you in next video, my favorites.